guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caira and I make videos all about living in Chicago apartments. We got some Trader Joe's. It's a really good time. Hit that big red subscribe button and click the bell notification because I post at least 2 videos a week and I would love for you to be able to follow along. Right off the bat, this is part 2 of my moving out series on answering all of your questions you guys had about moving out. So if you haven't seen part 1, I will link it up here, do the whole shindig thing. Watch that video, and then this video is answering all of my next round of questions. Part 1, part 2. I put a question box on Instagram and asked you guys to ask me all of your top questions about what you need to know for moving out. I'll pop your little questions up here on the screen and I'm gonna start answering them, but make sure you go follow me over on Instagram as well because I will do these videos from time to time and answer all of your questions, and so I need you guys to follow me so you can send me your question. This video is about moving out in general. It is not specific to Chicago or any area. I do have a whole series on answering your Chicago questions, but this one is just about moving out for the first time, anything you need to know no matter where you live. All right, the first question is how to move across the country. Ship your car, take or leave plans. So moving across the country, I moved from Phoenix to Chicago and it is a huge move. It really is. This really depends on your budget. When we moved, it was a pretty sudden change, and so we didn't have a ton that we were able to put down for moving. And so what we did is, if you have a lot of money and you've saved up a ton, you can always rent movers. It's really the easiest way to do everything. Different companies charge differently on just the amount of items or boxes, or it's done on weight, or it's just one lump sum for one semi truck kind of thing. So you're gonna need to know how much you're moving and whatnot to see if it's something that's worth it for you. For us, we didn't really have the money at the time to be able to hire movers. Hiring movers is $1,000 plus easily. It's expensive. What we did was we looked at a bunch of different moving truck websites. So I looked at U-Hauls and budget rentals and Penske. I don't think that's how you say it. And for us, it was by far the cheapest for us to hire a budget moving truck. It was $300 for a week and a half, and we picked it up in Phoenix and we dropped it off in Chicago. So we loaded the whole thing by ourselves, moved all of our stuff in it, drove the little truck all the way from Phoenix to Chicago, and then moved here and moved everything into our apartment and carried all the boxes and everything ourselves as well. Is it a lot more work? 100%. It is a lot more work, but it can be way, way cheaper than hiring movers if you're on a budget when you do it. Also, if I had to do it, I think I'd probably do it again just because of how much money we saved doing it that way. Shipping your car. This is another one. I mean, you could do it. It's just really expensive. You can also drive your car. For me, I love road trips, so I would probably prefer to drive my car anyways if I'm moving with a car. I don't have one anymore, but it's so expensive to ship cars that I think that making it a road trip and having fun with it would always be my preference. And lastly, take or leave plants. Whew, this is a hard one because plants are super hard to move. They're super hard to move and they die and it's sad. But my plants are my babies, and I've literally had some of my plants for 4+ years, and some of my plants have grown from little tiny babies to huge plants, and at this point, I could not get rid of them. It would break my little heart. So that's dependent on you. If it's something that you're not super emotionally attached to and you could easily buy new plants whenever you get to your new place, that's probably the easiest thing to do. Plants really are a huge pain to move. But if you're like me and you've had your plants for years and years and you really, really, really love them, take your plants. It's hard, it's a pain in the butt, but in my opinion, my plants are worth that extra effort for me. Thoughts on sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with a BFF to start out? This is a hard one. I've done the roommate thing. I had roommates all through college. I had roommates for a while after college. Roommates can be great. When I had great roommates, I loved it. It's like a built-in buddy with you 24/7. I hate being alone. I love having somebody to bother all the time and just chat with them and hang out with them all the freaking time. But when you get a bad roommate, there's nothing worse. I have had some bad roommates, bad roommates. And I think that's why I appreciated having my studio so much, because for the first time ever, it was just complete peace of mind, completely my own. I knew nobody was gonna come in and mess it up or ruin my day in my space because it was mine, and I loved it so, so much. I mean, if you have a best friend and you know, really, 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 really know that you guys will live very well together, you both have the same cleaning style, whether it's that you're messy or you're clean, you are on the same schedules. There's a lot of things that go into this that you need to consider. If you truly believe that you guys will be able to work really well together, then yeah, sharing a 1-bedroom with someone is a great place to start out because you'll save a lot of money. If you're deciding between living on your own in a studio versus living in a 2-bed, at least in Chicago, it's gonna be different everywhere, but at least here, I think that the price is very, very similar. You could get a studio for like $1,200. You could get a 2-bed for $2,400. You're gonna be spending the same amount. So in that situation, you really need to decide, do I want the companionship of a friend who I'm living with, or would I rather not have that, but have everything my own? I have my own kitchen, I have my own bathroom, I'm not sharing anything with anyone else. If you're moving out like for the first time, like first time ever, like from your family's home first time, I think probably living with roommates is the way to go, just because like it will probably be a bit cheaper for you. And it's just nice to be able to like split up responsibilities and whatnot. And it can be kind of a shock to go from living with your family and having people around all the time to moving into a studio. But if you're super independent and like maybe you're living in a family situation where you're like, this sucks, I hate people, get me out, I want my own space, get a studio. Studios are awesome. And I think because I'd had such a bad roommate experience, my studio was 100% my safe space, and I loved being there so much. It just made me so happy. So that's what I would take into consideration if you're deciding roommates versus non-roommates. All right, another question. Are virtual tours good enough, or should I still see the unit in person? This depends. If you have the ability to see the unit in person, I think that's always gonna be my preference. I like to walk into somewhere, I like to see it firsthand and really envision my stuff in it and everything. But if you're moving across the country and you're gonna fly out to go see it and everything, I think virtual tours, especially now because of COVID, do a really good job. Leasing agents are used to doing them. We know how to make them. We know how to make it so you're really getting the full experience, and it can be just as good as doing an in-person tour. So it depends on your situation. If it's convenient for you to do in person, that will always be my recommendation. But if it's not convenient for you, virtual tours 100% can get the job done. I've literally had clients who have spoken on the phone with them, we've set up tours for the next day, and they've moved in that same week because they were just on like a huge time crunch, figured out they had to move really, really fast. And in that situation, we did virtual tours because it was just like so last minute. They weren't out here yet and they're moving in a couple days, and those virtual tours work perfectly, and they're able to see all the spaces. And I've never had somebody who's moved into a place after virtually touring it who's been disappointed. Everyone's been like, this is exactly what I thought it was. I love it so much. I'm so excited. So does it do as good of a job? No, but like just a little bit less, just a little bit. I think they still do a really good job. And if you can only virtually tour, I think you'll be just fine. Do I hire movers if moving into luxury apartments? Well, I mean, the luxury apartment isn't gonna move your stuff for you. I'm not sure if that's what that meant, but you also aren't required to hire movers. The first 3 times we moved, we did not have movers, and we lifted everything ourselves. At this point, I am very weak. Well, I've always been very weak, but at this point I know this about myself, and you can pay for movers. I think it was like 70 bucks for us to have movers this last time. And all they did was lift everything from our rental truck into the apartment. It was worth that $70 because it is so hard and things are really heavy, and you can get movers for decently cheap if you're moving like within the city or something. You're not required to do them at all. If you want to move everything in and out yourself, 100% you can, but you do have the convenience of, if you can afford it and if you want to, you can get movers. It was 100% worth the $70 for me. When we first moved to Chicago, we didn't really have that money to play around with, and we did it all ourselves, and it was hard, but it was fine, and we did it. So depends on your budget for you, but no, you aren't required, and no, the buildings will not help you do it. Long distance move with dogs advice. Oh, this is a hard one. So I moved with Louie, my little pupperoo, and we moved from Phoenix to Chicago. And so that's a huge change. Like, not only am I now moving him out of a house into an apartment, but he's also leaving like the desert climate and living in a city. If you're gonna be flying and your dog's gonna be in a carrier, this is just like a general like traveling with pets advice, is make sure your dog is really comfortable with the carrier. I have flown with Louie a bunch, and so I would put treats in his carrier for him. I'd have him go in there for like little short amounts of time and then build it up so that way once he was gonna be in there for a longer flight, he was super comfortable in there. Now he gets freaking pumped to jump in the carrier because he knows he's going somewhere, but that was huge. If you're going in a car or something, talk to your vet. If your dogs get really anxious, you can always get a prescription for like a calming drug. You can do Benadryl. I know a lot of people do that when traveling with dogs. You can do CBD treats, but you can also get like a prescription for them. So that way they're just able to be less anxious and they aren't upset. I think it's always better to do like preventative, make sure that they're calm, because you don't want to have a stressed out pet for the entire move. That just sounds really hard. The hardest thing for me was when we get to a new apartment, then I have to like close him in the bathroom or something while we're moving all the stuff in. And that's the most stressful time. My dog does fine in the car, he does fine on planes, but when we're somewhere new and he doesn't know the place and I have to put him in a bathroom while we're moving all these boxes in and we're in and out, that stresses him out a lot. I always try and give him like a CBD treat or something then just to chill him out a little bit. But then I think it's also helpful if you're moving with like your same furniture and whatnot. At least my dog is always, once we have our furniture in, I think he realizes like this is new home, and then he is cool. He chills out and he's fine. Moving is stressful on humans. You know it's gonna be stressful on your pets too. So just do what you can to make them comfortable. Maybe put like one of your sweatshirts you wear the most like like down with him or something. That way like he's your scent. Things just that are comforting, the same as it would be comforting for a human. How soon should someone start looking before their move-in date? Really, the sweet spot is about 60 days in advance. Anything before that, you might not be able to find as much availability because you're a little too far ahead. 60 days is when you can start. I've literally helped people where I've hopped on the phone with them, they've toured 2 days later, and they moved in by the end of the week. You can do it really last minute and it's fine, but you can't really start until you're 60 days in advance just because you won't know current pricing, and anything you see will probably be gone by the time you're looking to actually move in anyways. That's my sweet spot. I'll work with a lot of clients, and sometimes if they really want to get a head start, I can show them buildings and be like, this one currently has availability in your price range, but I won't know about what there will be for your move date until we're closer. So 60 days, that's really where it's at. If you have less time than that, that's always fine as well. Is water always included? No. It is not. Always ask all the questions, ask everything you could possibly need to know, and ask if water is included, because some places might not include it and then you have that extra utility fee on top of it. Make sure when you're looking at apartments that you know everything that's included in your rent and what any additional fees will be or any utilities that you're in charge of. At least here in Chicago, most places, you pay your rent and then you have a utility package that covers like water, sewage, trash, gas, and then you also pay for your electric on top of it. So not only are you just paying your rent, you're paying your utility package and you're paying electric. No matter where you're moving, no matter what part of the country you're in, just make sure you know what all will go into that and look at your net fee of what everything comes out to together, because you want to be prepared for that. You don't want to move in and suddenly have all of these extra fees that you didn't anticipate. What should I have ready? That is a great question. If you're looking to move to an apartment, the things that you're gonna be required for when you actually put in your application is you're gonna need a photo of your driver's license. So you'll need that. You'll also need to show proof of income. Now this can be a couple of different things. Typically it's your last 2 pay stubs, and that's what most people will ask for right off the bat, is just to show your last 2 pay stubs. Most places will require that you make 2 to 3 times the month's rent in your gross monthly income. So if an apartment is $1,000, they will require that you either make $2,000 to $3,000 a month to be able to show that you can comfortably pay for that apartment. This changes depending on where you're at. That's what it is here in Chicago, but I know in New York it can be like 40 times the amount's rent. It's crazy. I don't even begin to understand. But here in Chicago, 2 to 3 times a month's rent. So you'll need to show that with your pay stubs. If you are a student and you are moving for school or something and you have student loans that cover your housing, you can show proof of income through your student loans. If you're moving to start a job in Chicago and you haven't started that job yet because you're not here, you can also use your offer letter to show your proof of income. That works just as well. Something that shows I've got this much money that's gonna be coming my way and I can pay for it. If you don't have any of those things, you can always get a co-signer or a guarantor, someone you're close with, whether it's a family member, I don't care, someone who's willing to sign onto your lease and say, I am legally here saying if this person does not pay their rent, I am required to pay the rent. I am also on this lease. I've had my dad co-sign on places with me before when I didn't have like the full income or wasn't able to provide it at that time, and it doesn't change anything. It doesn't hurt your application. It only helps it. As long as you pay your rent, it really doesn't matter. Like my dad never had to pay anything or do anything because I was able to pay my rent every single month, so you're good to go. But that is always an option too. And the last question I'm going to include in this video is how to get your security deposit back. Don't mess up your apartment. That's like really the big thing. The security deposit there is for them to say, we're gonna make sure that you have left the apartment in the condition you got it in. If you've put any holes in the wall, you're gonna need to patch them up and paint the walls. If you've painted the walls, you're gonna have to repaint the walls. Any sort of damage you've done, that's gonna come out of your security deposits. Make sure you keep your apartment in nice condition. Also, clean your apartment. I've had to pay some of my security deposit because I didn't have it cleaned to their standards. So if that means even hiring cleaners and it costs you $100 to hire cleaners to clean your place after you move out, if that means that you're saving $500 that your apartment's gonna charge you for cleaning, then it's worth it. Just make sure that you leave your apartment in the best condition possible, because if there's anything, then they'll try and keep your security deposit from you. But if you leave your apartment in perfect condition, they really can't say anything, and then it's usually pretty easy for you to get your security deposit back. Depends how nice your landlord is, but I would say that your chances are gonna be pretty good. Let's see, do I do one more question? Did I answer everything? All right, I feel like I've touched on this one a little bit, but I'm gonna touch on it again. How to save money on buying all the things needed kitchen furniture moving to Chicago on March 1st. Welcome to the city. Facebook Marketplace is my best friend. It is where I've gotten all of my furniture from, literally all of my furniture, because I would much rather pay for something that's used and be able to get a higher quality piece than pay that same amount of money for something that's new, but it be not as nice piece. When it comes to like couches and stuff, depending on where you're at, like here in Chicago, people sell couches and stuff on Facebook Marketplace for crazy cheap prices, and they'll be like West Elm, CB2, just things that people are upgrading or they're moving out of the state and they just don't want to bring with them, and they'll sell them for super cheap prices. I would rather pay $500 and get a beautiful CB2 couch that was $2,000, but it's been used, then me pay $500 and get a brand new IKEA couch that'll probably last me like a year and a half, and then it'll be uncomfortable and it'll start breaking and I'm gonna need to replace it anyways. That's just my 2 cents. I use that to save so much money on furniture. Also, like thrift stores, I've gotten all of my end tables. I've gotten dressers from thrift stores, mirrors, like all that sort of stuff you can get for really good prices. You can also use a thrift store to get all of your like kitchen things, like your plates and your pots and pans and stuff. Like there can be some really great stuff there. But also, if you don't want to get like your kitchen stuff used, IKEA has really, really great things for really low prices. That's where all of my kitchen stuff is from. Also Walmart, Target, like your big box brand name stores, those have really, really good prices on a lot of your basic kitchen needs and random things that you'll need just to get your feet wet to get started. Because I'd say always start off on the lower end. If you're working with a budget, just get the cheapest thing, because you can always upgrade once you're like financially comfortable and in to be able to keep the ball rolling. But if you try and buy the nicest thing right off the bat for everything, you are going to be spending a pretty penny, when really you can disperse those costs out over time. A lot of my kitchen stuff is the same stuff that I got when I moved into my first studio apartment in 2016, and it is 2021. So people love to hate on IKEA, but all of my stuff has done me very well. All right guys, that's gonna be the last of my questions for this video. Hopefully this helped you. There is part 1 if you haven't already seen that, but also let me know if you have any questions. I wanna make a part 3 of this. So comment down your questions below. Also go and follow me over on Instagram. I'll post a story at some point with a question box on there where I'll be asking for more questions, and I would love for you to also just be able to keep up with my life over there. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to hit that big red subscribe button and ding that bell notification so that way when I do post a part 3, you'll get notified of it and you can see all of your questions answered as well. I hope you liked this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.